The air is thick with the scent of molten metal and ancient secrets tonight, as we gather together in the quiet dark. Somewhere out there, perhaps your world is bathed in moonlight, or maybe the first hints of dawn are just brushing the horizon. Wherever you are, whenever this moment finds you, we'd love to know what corner of the world are you listening from tonight, and what hour has drawn you into this tale. Let us know in the comments below, because every voice, every listener, becomes part of this story. There's a place where fire and shadow dance in endless twilight, a forge hidden deep within the jagged peaks of Mordor, where the very air trembles with purpose. Here, beneath the gaze of the Dark Lord Sauron, something unimaginable is taking shape. Not weapons of war, not mere trinkets of gold, but rings. Rings that hum with a power older than kingdoms, heavier than crowns. Can you hear it? The whisper of metal taking form, the slow, deliberate breath of a master craftsman whose ambition stretches beyond the edges of the world itself. This is where legends are twisted into something new, where promises glimmer like fool's gold, and where the fate of Middle-earth balances on the edge of a single, terrible design. Tonight, we step into that forge. We'll walk beside Sauron as he bends his will to creation, not destruction, though one so often leads to the other. This is the story of how darkness wears its most seductive guise, not as a blade, but as a gift. A gift meant to ensnare kings, corrupt elves, and weave chains so beautiful, their wearers would never think to break free. And as the fires crackle and the shadows lengthen, ask yourself, what would you have done if such a ring were offered to you? The tale begins now, in the heart of the mountain, where the first embers of power are stirring. The road to Eregion is bathed in an eerie golden light, as if the very air hesitates beneath the footsteps of the stranger who walks it. He calls himself Annatar, Lord of Gifts, and his voice carries the warmth of spring after a long winter, his words honeyed with promises no elf has heard in centuries. His cloak is woven with threads that shimmer like starlight, his face fair and open, betraying none of the darkness coiled beneath. To the elves of Eregion, weary of watching their magic fade like mist under the sun, he is a revelation. And then there is Celebrimbor, grandson of the great Fëanor, heir to a legacy of fire and craft. He stands apart even among his people. His hands have shaped marvels, yet his heart carries the weight of his lineage, the brilliance and the ruin it brought. When Annatar speaks of preserving the light of the elves, of forging objects to hold their fading power eternal, Celebrimbor's fingers twitch with restless curiosity. He knows the sting of doubt, the whisper that warns him, no gift comes without cost. But the stranger's knowledge is vast, his skill undeniable. What if this is the answer? What if, just this once, ambition does not lead to ash? The forges of Eregion burn brighter than they have in ages. Annatar moves among the smiths like a shadow given form, his guidance effortless, his suggestions irresistible. Secrets long forgotten spill from his lips, how to bind light to metal, how to weave enchantments stronger than steel. The elves, hungry for mastery, drink in his words. And Celebrimbor watches, torn. He sees the hunger in his people's eyes, the way their hands tremble with newfound purpose. But in the quiet hours, when the fires dim, he wonders, who truly bends to whose will? The Lord of Gifts smiles often, but never with his eyes. The first rings take shape, beautiful, terrible things, humming with a power no elf has ever wielded. They are meant to preserve, to protect, but deep in the mountain's heart, where shadows cling thickest, another forge burns, and there, in secret, something far darker stirs. The hammers of Eregion fall in perfect rhythm, a symphony of creation that shakes the very stones beneath the elves' feet. At first, the rings they craft are small things, delicate bands of silver and gold, humming with faint echoes of power. Practice pieces, Annatar calls them, stepping between the anvils with a scholar's patience. His hands never lift a tool, yet every smith leans closer when he speaks, as if his words alone could temper metal. Celebrimbor works longest of all, his brow furrowed not with strain, but with something sharper, an ease that lingers like smoke in his lungs. These lesser rings are marvels, yes. But why does their song sound so familiar? Metal remembers. That's what the old smiths taught him. The way it holds the shape of every strike, the heat of every flame. And as Celebrimbor bends over his workbench, etching runes into a circlet of mithril, he feels it, the ghost of another hand guiding his. Annatar's shadow stretches long across the floor, though no torch stands behind him to cast it. The runes twist under Celebrimbor's fingers, reshaping themselves into forms he never intended. Power thrums through the metal, hot and hungry, and for a heartbeat, the ring whispers back. Not in the clear voice of elvish craft, but in something older, something that speaks in the cracks between words. Across the hall, the other smiths laugh as their own creations flicker to life. A band that turns water to wine, another that spins sunlight into thread. Gifts, all of them, harmless wonders, but Celebrimbor's hands slow. He knows the weight of a thing that asks more than it gives. His grandfather's hammer hangs heavy on the wall, its once bright runes dulled by ash and memory. Fëanor, too, had been promised mastery. How many times must history burn before they learn? Yet even as doubt knots in his chest, the work continues. The forges burn brighter, fed by some unseen wind. Annatar's voice curls through the smoke, soft as a lullaby. Imagine, he murmurs, what greater things we might make. And the elves, ever hungry for beauty, ever fearful of fading, imagine. Their hammers rise and fall, weaving chains they cannot see. With every ring completed, the shadows in the corners of the hall grow darker. Not empty spaces, but waiting ones. Somewhere beyond the mountains, deep in the earth where fire runs like blood, a single molten eye opens. The first notes have been struck. The song is only beginning. The whispers begin in the quiet moments, when the forges cool and the smiths retreat to their halls, their fingers still tingling with the memory of power. Annatar moves among them like a breeze through leaves, his words light as dandelion, fluff but heavy with implication. What if, he murmurs to Celebrimbor one evening, tracing a finger along the edge of an unfinished ring, your people's light need not fade at all. The firelight catches the stranger's eyes, just so gold flecked with something darker, like embers smothered in ash. Celebrimbor's hand still around his goblet. He has heard tales of such things, of artifacts that could hold time itself at bay, but those were the works of the valor, not mortal hands. Yet Annatar speaks of them as if they were recipes for bread, simple and attainable. All knowledge was once unknown, the Lord of Gifts says, smiling, and all great works begin as impossible dreams. The words settle in Celebrimbor's chest like a hook, delicate but undeniable. The next morning, the forges roar to life with new purpose. The lesser rings are set aside like children's toys. Now, the smiths bend over designs more intricate than anything Eregion has seen. Circles within circles, runes that twist and fold upon themselves. Annatar hovers at Celebrimbor's shoulder, his breath warm against the elf's ear, as he corrects a line here, adjusts a curve there. Power requires precision. He chides softly, and Celebrimbor nods, though his fingers tremble. The parchment before him no longer feels like his own work. It thrums, as if the ink itself were alive. By the third moon, the first true ring is ready for the fire. Mithril and gold twist together like lovers' hands, the metal singing as it takes shape. Celebrimbor watches, breath caught in his throat, as the band emerges from the coals. Not just beautiful, but knowing. It pulses in his palm, as though tuned to the very rhythm of his heart. Around him, the other smiths gasp. None have ever seen craft like this. None have ever felt it. Annatar steps forward, his face unreadable. A beginning, he pronounces, and the word hangs in the air like smoke. Celebrimbor barely hears the cheers of his people. All he can focus on is the way the ring warms against his skin, as if it recognizes him, as if it has been waiting. Later, in the hollow hours before dawn, Celebrimbor walks the empty halls of the forge. The ring rests heavy in his pocket, its presence impossible to ignore. Somewhere beyond the mountains, a shadow stirs patient. For the first time in centuries, the elves have dared to grasp at eternity. And Sauron, smiling in the dark, knows better than any. To hold a thing forever, you must first persuade it to slip willingly onto your finger. The forges of Eregion glow brighter than the summer sun, their light spilling across the anvils where 16 destinies take shape. Each ring emerges from the fire like a living thing, gold for the kings of men, wrought with symbols of dominion and glory, silver for the dwarf lords, etched with runes of unyielding stone. Celebrimbor's hands move with a craftsman's certainty, yet his heart beats in time with the hammers, not in triumph, but in something closer to hunger. The elves whisper that these rings are their salvation, a way to preserve their fading grace. But metal has its own language, and if he listens closely, Celebrimbor can hear the faintest echo beneath the song, a discordant note, like a laugh smothered in velvet. Sauron watches from the shadows, his presence a brush of cold air against the back of Celebrimbor's neck. The Lord of Gifts offers no guidance now, only quiet approval. His satisfaction is a slow poison, seeping into every corner of the workshop. The elves see mastery in their work, but Sauron sees the threads of his design pulling taut. 9 rings for men, their hearts already ripe with longing. How easily they will twist under the weight of power. 7 for the dwarves, stubborn as the roots of mountains, yet even stone cracks under the right pressure. Celebrimbor lifts the latest ring to the light, its band shimmering like a promise. He does not see the flaw woven into its heart, the hairline fracture only Sauron's eyes can trace. Pride swells in his chest, bright and blinding. For the first time in centuries, the elves have created something that might rival the works of Valinor. But creation is only half the art. The other half is knowing what hands will hold it. The workshop hums with joy, the air thick with the scent of laurel leaves and hot metal. The elves celebrate as the 16 rings are laid upon velvet, their glow casting long shadows on the walls. shadows that move when no one is looking. Sauron's fingers twitch at his sides, aching to claim what is his. Yet he waits. Let them believe the work is done. Let them think the gifts are given freely. Far away, in kingdoms not yet broken, kings dream of crowns too heavy for mortal brows. Dwarf lords chisel their names into cavern walls, never imagining what else might be carved beside them. And in the dark, where fire and shadow share the same breath, a single golden eye narrows. The trap is set, the bait is taken. Now comes the patient part, the waiting, the watching, the slow, sweet unraveling of wills. For rings, like promises, are only as strong as the hands that wear them. The dreams come like thieves in the night, flashes of molten gold, pooling in the palm of his hand, then twisting into chains that slither up his arms. Celebrimbor wakes gasping, the sheets tangled around him, his skin slick with sweat that smells faintly of sulfur. The workshop hums in his bones even here, miles from the forges, as if the rings themselves have begun to call to him across the distance. He tells himself it's merely the exhaustion of creation, the toll of bending so much power into form. But when he closes his eyes, the visions return, Annatar's smile peeling back like parchment to reveal something hollow beneath, the rings gleaming not with light, but with a hunger that mirrors the Dark Lord's own. Morning finds him at the forge earlier than the others, running his fingers over the nearly completed bands. They're beautiful, too beautiful, perhaps. The way they catch the light feels less like reflection and more like absorption, as if they're drinking in the very air around them. Is something troubling you? Annatar's voice is honey poured over steel, sudden and smooth at his shoulder. Celebrimbor stiffens. The Lord of Gifts has a way of appearing exactly when doubt begins to take root, as if he can scent hesitation on the wind. The work goes well, Celebrimbor mutters, turning a dwarf lord's ring between his fingers. Yet I wonder, power like this has never been bound by mortal hands. What if the price is higher than we know? Annatar laughs, a sound like coins scattering across stone. All great craft demands sacrifice, he says, plucking the ring from Celebrimbor's grasp. It looks smaller in his hands, diminished, but fear is the only true cost. Hesitate now, and everything you've built crumbles to ash. His thumb strokes the band's inner curve, where secret runes twist like vines. Would you rather fade gently into the twilight, or shape the dawn yourself? The question lingers long after Annatar has drifted away to admire another smith's work. Celebrimbor stares into the forge's heart, watching flames lick at the edges of his reflection. He thinks of his grandfather's silmarils, how their radiance had blinded even the gods to the ruin they would bring. Beauty and doom, two sides of the same coin, but this is different, isn't it? The rings are meant to preserve, to protect, unless preservation itself is the trap. That evening, he walks the empty halls of the guild house, pausing before the great mural of Fëanor. The paint is cracked with age, the once vibrant colors dulled. His grandfather's eyes still burn, though, fierce with the same fire that once forged the impossible. What would you have done? Celebrimbor whispers. The silence offers no answer, only the echo of his own breathing. In the end, it's the fear of fading that decides him, not for himself, but for his people, for the whispers he's heard in the streets, the way the elves glance at their children, and then at the horizon, as if counting the years until their light gutters out. The rings could be their salvation. They must be, And so Celebrimbor lifts his hammer once more, driving doubt into the metal like a nail. Let history judge him. Let the fire take what it will. Somewhere beyond the mountains, the shadows stir with satisfaction. The finest traps are those the prey builds for itself. The hammer strikes in secret now, its rhythm hushed as a heartbeat in the dark. Celebrimbor works alone, the forges of Eregion cold behind him, his new workshop hidden where even the stars seem hesitant to shine. The metal he bends is different this time, not gold or mithril, but something older, purer, drawn from the heart of the earth itself. 3 rings take shape under his trembling hands, their design simpler than the others, yet thrumming with a power that makes the air hum. No whispers taint these, no shadow lingers in their curves. For the first time since Annatar's arrival, Celebrimbor feels the clean, bright spark of true craft, elven magic, untainted by borrowed knowledge. Narya glows like embers cupped in his palm, its ruby pulsing with the warmth of unbroken dawn. Nenya's diamond holds the chill of starlight on still water, cool against his skin. And Vilya, set with sapphire, hums with the echo of wind through ancient trees. These are not tools of dominion, but of preservation, meant to heal, to sustain, to remind his people of what they were before the shadow of doubt crept in. He names them in whispers, as if speaking too loudly might draw attention. The other rings may bear Sauron's touch, but these are his alone. A gust of wind rattles the shutters, though the night is still. Celebrimbor's head snaps up, fingers closing tight around the rings. The workshop, buried deep beneath the city, should be invisible, yet something prickles at the back of his neck, the weight of eyes where there are none. Annatar has not been seen in days. The smiths murmur of pilgrimage, of some urgent errand that called him east, but Celebrimbor knows better. Gifts always come due. He hides the rings before the first light touches the sky. Narya entrusted to the keeping of Gil-galad, whose laughter once could shake the leaves from the trees. Nenya slips into the hands of Galadriel, her gaze already sharp with foresight. And Vilya, he keeps closest, tucked against his breast like a second heartbeat. They must never be worn, while Sauron's hand still shapes the world. The other rings may sing in harmony with their master's will, but these 3 will remain silent, waiting. Far away, in the depths of Mordor, the fires of Orodruin flare suddenly, painting the cliffs in blood-red light. Sauron stands at the edge of the chasm, his borrowed face peeling away like burning parchment. The wind carries a scent to him, salt and smoke, and the faintest trace of defiance. His fingers flex. The elves have always been clever, but cleverness, like silver, bends under heat. The shadow in the forge lengthens, though no flame flickers to cast it. The 16 rings are finished, their bearers chosen, yet the song is incomplete. 3 notes are missing. Sauron's lips curl, not in anger, but in something colder. Patience has its limits, and now, at last, the hunt begins. The first blow falls not with steel, but with silence. One morning, the forges of Eregion wake cold. No whispers from Annatar drift through the workshops. No golden shadow lingers at the edges of the hall. Only an absence, thick as smoke, and the creeping sense that something has been holding its breath and just exhaled. Celebrimbor knows before the horns sound. He knows when he touches the hidden pouch at his belt, feeling the three rings twitch like startled birds. They sense it too. The mask has cracked. War comes on ragged wings. Ravens blacker than midnight spiral over the city, their cries sharp as splintered bone. Then the earth itself trembles, a slow, rolling groan that shatters windows and sends elves stumbling into the streets. From the east, a tide of fire spills across the horizon. Orcs in numbers not seen since the First Age, their armor sewn with the mark of the lidless eye. At their head, a figure taller than memory, his form flickering between fair and foul as a candle guttering in the wind. No more Annatar, no more honeyed words. The Dark Lord has come to collect his due. Celebrimbor's hands shake as he bars the guildhouse doors. Around him, smiths turned. Soldiers clutch weapons they barely remember how to wield. The rings they forged gleam on their fingers, but the magic that once flowed so easily now curdles in their veins. One elf tears his band away with a scream, the skin beneath blistered as if the metal had turned to poison. They are singing, he gasps. Can't you hear it? A song not of preservation, but possession. Celebrimbor closes his eyes. The three rings in his pouch burn against his hip, their voices still clean, still free. But for how long? The walls hold for 3 days. 3 days of screams and smoke, of arrows blackening the sky. On the fourth morning, the gates explode inward in a storm of splinters and molten rock. Sauron strides through the ruins, his true form unveiled at last. A nightmare of molten gold and shifting shadow, his crown a cage of twisted spikes. Where his feet touch the stone, the ground withers. Where his gaze falls, hope shrivels. He does not demand surrender. He does not speak at all. The silence is worse than any taunt. Celebrimbor flees through the bleeding city, the three rings wrapped in a scrap of his cloak. Galadriel's voice echoes in his mind. Take them to Imladris. The valley is hidden. He cannot find what he does not know to seek, but the shadow has 1,000 eyes. Every raven, every whisper of wind carries word back to the Dark Lord. The road north is a gauntlet of fire, the very trees clawing at him as he runs. Behind him, Eregion collapses like a dying beast. Ahead, only darkness and the desperate hope that the rings might outlast their maker's wrath. Sauron does not chase. He walks slowly, certain as winter. His armies fan out like spilled ink across the land, but he keeps his steps measured, savoring the hunt. The smith who dared defy him will not die quickly. The three rings will not remain hidden, and when at last he breaks Celebrimbor upon the anvil of his will, the elf will understand. Some gifts are not given, but taken. The fire ahead brightens, not with dawn, but with the glow of Mount Doom, a beacon calling its master home. The final forge awaits. The one ring stirs in the dark, half-dreamed, already hungry. The scent of burning cedar and molten stone hangs thick over Eregion, a kingdom unraveling at the seams. Towers that once gleamed like pearls under moonlight now crumble into the streets, their broken spires jutting like bones through the smoke. Every alley echoes with the clash of steel and the guttural cries of orcs, drunk on victory. Celebrimbor staggers through the ruins, his hands raw from battle, his robes stiff with blood, not all of it his own. The three rings press against his ribs, their presence a secret even the wind cannot betray. But time is a noose tightening with every breath. Somewhere beyond the flames, boots crunch deliberately over fallen marble. He knows that tread. The Dark Lord does not run. They take him in what remains of the Hall of Myrdain, its tapestries of elven glory, now ash beneath Sauron's feet. The Dark Lord's form is a shifting horror, golden armor fused to blackened flesh, a crown of jagged spikes where Annatar's fair hair once fell. His voice, when it comes, is the sound of a forge devouring coal. You cling to what is already mine, he murmurs, flexing fingers that drip molten metal onto the stone. A petty defiance. Celebrimbor's jaw sets. He has seen the fate of the other ring bearers. Men turn to wraiths, their souls gnawed hollow by power. Dwarves consumed by gold lust until their kingdoms choked on greed. The three must never suffer such corruption. The torture begins with silence. Sauron needs no instruments. His will alone peels back layers of thought like skin from fruit, searching for the memory of sapphire, ruby, diamond. Celebrimbor's mind becomes a battleground every cherished moment. His first forging as an apprentice, the laughter of children in Eregion's gardens, twisted into hooks to rip the truth free. Yet the elf does something Sauron never anticipates. He laughs. Blood bubbles on his lips, but the sound is bright, wild. You cannot take what was never yours to claim, he gasps. The three are beyond your reach. For the first time, the Dark Lord hesitates, not at the defiance, but at the certainty in Celebrimbor's eyes. The rings are hidden, yes, but more than that, they are protected. Galadriel's wardings, Gil-galad's vows, the very fabric of Imladris's magic, all woven into a net even Sauron's hand cannot slip through. Rage flickers across his face like lightning. The chamber trembles as he raises a hand wreathed in fire. Then you are useless, he snarls. What follows is not death, but unmaking. Celebrimbor's body becomes a testament to the Dark Lord's wrath, hung from the broken gates like a banner of flesh and splintered bone, his face frozen in a smile Sauron cannot erase. The message is clear. This is the price of defiance. Yet as the wind tugs at the elf's tattered cloak, a whisper threads through the ruins, carried from elf to elf like a spark in dry grass. The three endure. Somewhere, Naria's flame still flickers, Nenya's light still gleams, Vilya's song still hums in the deep places of the world, and Sauron, for all his power, cannot silence what he cannot hold. The Dark Lord turns his gaze north, where the mountains hide valleys not yet stained by shadow. The hunt is not over, but neither is the hope. Deep in the belly of Orodruin, where rivers of fire carve their slow path through the rock, a shadow darker than the mountain's heart takes shape. The air itself screams as Sauron bends over the forge, his form flickering between monstrous and majestic. Here a towering warlord clad in molten gold, there a thing of smoke and ember, his very essence unraveling as he pours it into the crucible. The metal he works is unlike any other, not mined from the earth, but drawn from the core of his being, a ribbon of liquid malice that coils around itself like a serpent. This is no mere trinket to tempt kings or corrupt elves. This is the keystone of his dominion, the lock that will bind all other rings to his will. The flames leap higher as Sauron begins to chant, his voice not one sound but many, the shriek of a dying soldier, the whisper of a traitor's promise, the hollow groan of a throne room collapsing under its own weight. With each word, the molten gold twists tighter, swallowing the echoes of his cruelty until the band glows not with light, but with absence. A hunger lives in its curve, gaping and insatiable. The other rings, scattered across Middle-earth in the hands of their unsuspecting bearers, shudder in unison. In Linden, Gil-galad's wine cup slips from his fingers as Narya's flame gutters like a candle in a storm. In Khazad-dûm, a dwarf lord clutches his chest, his silver ring suddenly ice cold against his skin. They do not yet understand what has awakened, but they feel it, the pull of a chain they never saw being forged. Sauron's laughter shakes the mountain as he lifts the one ring from the fire. It is deceptively simple, a band of unadorned gold, smooth as a lie. Yet to gaze upon it is to stare into a whirlpool, the mind caught in the spiral of its making. Here is the will to dominate, refined into a circle no wider than a finger. Here is the patience of centuries, hammered thin enough to slip unnoticed onto a hand. The Dark Lord holds it aloft, and for the first time since the world was young, all the rings of power answer as one, their songs twisting into a chorus of submission. But in the silence between heartbeats, three notes refuse to harmonize. Far away, where the stars still shine clear and the rivers run untainted, Narya, Nenya, and Vilya stiffen like hounds, catching a wolf's scent. Their bearers jerk upright, sweat slick on their brows. The One Ring's voice slithers through their thoughts, sweet as poisoned wine, but the three rings were made with pure craft. They remember Celebrimbor's hands, his whispered hope, and so they do the one thing Sauron never anticipated. They go silent, not fighting, not fleeing, but folding their power inward like flowers at dusk, becoming so small, so still, that the Dark Lord's grip closes on empty air. Orodruin's fire dims as Sauron slips the one ring onto his finger. The world bends. Shadows stretch toward him like worshippers before an altar. He can feel the pulse of every lesser ring, their bearers' hearts beating in time with his own. Almost all, the absence gnaws at him, the three threads snipped clean from the tapestry of his control. The smile that splits his face is all teeth. A hunt, then. A chase to make the prey's final moments taste all the sweeter. Outside the mountain, the sky bleeds crimson. Ravens spiral upward, carrying the news in their jagged cries. In Imladris, Elrond feels the weight of the coming storm in the ache of his bones. In Lothlorien, Galadriel's mirror clouds over, the water swirling with visions of fire and shattered towers. The One Ring is awake, and its voice is only beginning to rise. The moment the One Ring slides onto Sauron's finger, a tremor runs through the world, not through earth or stone, but through the unseen threads that bind all things. In the golden woods of Lothlorien, Galadriel's mirror shatters without a touch, its waters boiling black as tar. She staggers back, Nenya blazing on her hand like a star caught in a vice. The ring's voice slithers into her mind, sweet and suffocating, whispering of realms where her power would never fade, where every shadow would bow before her light. For a heartbeat, the temptation is a physical weight, pressing down until her knees nearly buckle. But then she remembers Celebrimbor's last words to her, remember what we sought to preserve, not what we feared to lose. With a cry that shakes the leaves from the trees, she tears Nenya from her finger. The moment it leaves her skin, the vision snaps like a thread. The forest exhales. Across the sea in Linden, Gil-galad's feast hall falls silent as Narya's flame gutters in his palm. The ruby darkens, its glow replaced by a pulsing red, like a wound beneath the skin. Laughter dies on his lips. Around him, his counselors clutch their heads as if struck by invisible arrows because they hear it too. The call, not words, not even sound, but a pull, as though their very souls are tethered to something vast and ravenous, reeling them in like fish on a line. Gil-galad's hands shake as he pries the ring loose. It hits the marble with a clang that echoes like a funeral bell. He has made his move, the High King murmurs. And now, so must we. Elrond feels it last of all, deep in the hidden valley of Imladris. Vilya thrums against his chest, its sapphire weeping streaks of blue light down his robes. The air around him warps, showing flashes of a future where the rivers run with fire and the sky is choked with ash. The ring's song, once a gentle hum of protection, now rasps like a blade dragged over stone. He does not remove it, not yet. Instead, he presses a hand to the cool metal, feeling the echo of Celebrimbor's defiance still woven into its core. "You will not have this one," he whispers to the shadows lengthening across the floor. Around him, the very walls of the last homely house seem to lean closer, as if bracing for a storm, the free peoples wake that dawn to a world unmade. Ravens bring word of Eregion's fall, of Celebrimbor's broken body hung like a banner over the ruins. The dwarves clutch their rings tighter, blind to the slow rot creeping into their treasuries. The men wear their bands with pride, unaware that every whispered promise of glory is a noose tightening around their throats. Only the three remain beyond Sauron's grasp, their bearers standing like candles in the gathering dark. But candles, as Galadriel knows too well, are easily snuffed out. Somewhere in the east, the Dark Lord flexes his hand, watching the gold of the One Ring glint in the firelight. The game has changed. The elves have proven cleverer than he hoped. But cleverness burns quickest of all. Let them hide their trinkets. Let them whisper their plans. When the time comes, he will peel back every mountain, drain every river, until the three are back where they belong, in his grasp. For now, though, there are kingdoms to break and kings to bend. The first moves have been made, the board is set, and Sauron has never lost a game of patience. The halls of Khaz-ad-Dûm echo with a different kind of thunder, not the steady rhythm of hammers shaping stone, but the restless clatter of gold being counted and recounted in vaults that were once filled with laughter. The dwarves were meant to bend like iron beneath the weight of their rings, their wills softened until they answered to Sauron's voice alone. But dwarven hearts are stubborn things, their roots sunk deep into the bones of the earth. The 7 rings burn on their fingers, yet they do not fade into shadows. Instead, something far more dangerous takes hold, an obsession so bright it blinds them to the rot creeping through their kingdoms. Each ring whispers of veins of mithril yet untapped, of gemstones that could buy empires, of hoards so vast they would make the dragon Smaug seem a pauper. The dwarf lords listen, their eyes reflecting not the Dark Lord's will, but their own hunger reflected back tenfold. Thror's fingers twitch over the Arkenstone, his once shrewd mind narrowing to a single, glittering point. More. Moria's forges burn day and night, not for craft, but for the sheer heat of gold running like blood through the stone. Trade routes wither as the dwarves turn inward, bartering with ghosts and grudge-holding kings. The rings promised power, yes, but power, to a dwarf, has always been measured in weight and worth. Yet gold is not the only thing that grows in the dark. The mines plunge deeper than ever before, following seams that shimmer with an unnatural light. The miners return hollow-eyed, speaking of whispers in the rock, of pickaxes striking something soft that should have been stone. The rings glow warmly against their bearer's skin, as if pleased. Sauron watches from afar, his lip curling. This was not the dominion he envisioned, but corruption wears many faces. If the dwarves will not become his slaves, let them become his wrecking ball. Let their greed sunder alliances. Let their vaults choke on cursed gold. Let their own pride dig the graves he need not lift a finger to fill. And so the lonely mountain's gates slam shut. The iron hills' forges fall silent. In the glittering tombs of Erebor, the very air grows heavy, thick with the scent of gold fever and something fouler. A sickness no axe can cleave, no wealth can cure. The dwarves do not hear the Dark Lord's laughter. They are too busy listening to the song of their rings, sweet and ceaseless, lulling them deeper into dreams where every mountain is hollow, and every hollow is filled with treasure. Only one sound cuts through the delirium, a distant, echoing tap, tap, tap from the lowest depths. But by the time the dwarf lords think to wonder what might lie beneath their feet, it is far too late to ask. The fate of men is written in gold and shadow, each of the 9 rings a key, turning in a lock no mortal was meant to open. At first, the gifts seem like blessings. Kings who wear them find their voices carrying farther, their judgments sharper, their armies moving as if guided by an unseen hand. The rings do not lie, not exactly. They amplify. A ruler's hunger for order becomes obsession. His thirst for justice curdles into cruelty, and his fear of death, that is the sweetest thread for Sauron to pluck. Year by year, the change creeps in. The kings notice how the sunlight stings their eyes, how the laughter of children grates like broken glass. They begin to dream of the same vast emptiness, a desert where no wind blows, where the stars are fixed in place like nails in a coffin. Their rings hum at night, singing lullabies of endless dominion. Why should your reign fade like a common man's breath on the air? The whispers coax. Why not stretch your rule beyond the grasp of time itself? The first to vanish is the Witch King of Angmar. His people wake one morning to find his throne empty, his crown toppled in the dust. Only the servants whisper of what they saw, a figure cloaked in tattered black, its face a void where the king's proud features once were, riding north on a steed that left no hoof prints in the snow. One by one, the others follow. A lord of Harad strides into the dunes at midnight, drawn by a voice only he can hear. A Gondorian prince locks himself in a tower, screaming that the walls are breathing, until his cries thin into silence. What emerges from these husks is no longer man, but not quite ghost. The Nazgûl move through the world like smoke under a door, their forms flickering between solid and spectral. Their wills are not their own, yet they remember enough to ache, for warmth, for sunlight, for the weight of a crown that long ago crumbled to dust. They serve Sauron not out of loyalty, but because his voice is the only sound that cuts through the endless whispering in their skulls. And the shadow spreads, where the Nazgûl ride, crops wither in the fields, wells turn brackish, children wake screaming of a lidless eye, staring down from their bedchamber ceiling. The 9 were once kings, warriors, men who shaped the fate of nations. Now they are the wind that snuffs out candles, the chill that creeps into bones, the reason mothers clutch their babes tighter when the moon goes dark. Yet even in their hollowed-out souls, a spark of the original man remains not enough to resist, but enough to suffer. That is Sauron's final cruelty. The rings grant immortality, yes, but they do not spare their bearers from knowing exactly what they have lost. Sauron's shadow stretches across Middle-earth like a great, suffocating hand, his will seeping into the roots of mountains, the beds of rivers, the very air men and elves breathe. With the 9 rings twisting their bearers into wraiths, and the 7 driving the dwarves mad with gold lust, the Dark Lords grip titans without a single battle fought. Kingdoms crumble from within, their rulers' eyes hollowed out by visions of power, their people choking on the ashes of their own fear. The once proud cities of men become mazes of whispers, where even daylight feels thin and frayed. Yet in the west, where the stars still pierce the night with clarity, 3 lights refuse to gutter out. Gil-galad's Narya burns low but steady in Linden, its flame a stubborn ember against the creeping chill. Galadriel's Nenya turns the glades of Lothlorien into a sanctuary where time itself hesitates to tread, the leaves forever caught between gold and green. And in the hidden valley of Imladris, Elrond's Vilya hums beneath the floorboards like a heartbeat, its power woven into the very foundations of the last homely house. These are not weapons, they are shields crafted not to conquer, but to preserve, and that, perhaps, is why Sauron's fury burns hottest when he thinks of them. For all his might, the Dark Lord cannot touch what he does not understand. The 3 rings were made in secret, their song never harmonizing with his own. When he stretches his thought westward, searching for their pulse, he finds only silence, not the silence of absence, but the quiet of a door barred against him. It gnaws at him, this flaw in his design, like a man who builds a perfect cage only to find the key was forged elsewhere. His armies march, his Nazgûl scour the lands, yet the elves endure. Their defiance is not in swords or siege works, but in the simple, impossible act of remembrance. They tend gardens where the flowers bloom unchanged for centuries. They sing songs older than the bones of mountains. They remind the world that some things' beauty, hope, the fragile light of dawn, cannot be bought or broken. And so the war shifts. Sauron's orcs tear through the forests, felling trees that have stood since the First Age, as if to erase the very memory of their roots. His whispers slither into the councils of men, urging them to see their elven allies as thieves hoarding power. Why should they live forever? The murmurs go, while your children wither like grass. Division becomes his sharpest blade. Yet in Rivendell, a council gathers not of warriors, but of scholars, healers, poets. They bring no armies, only stories. And stories, as Sauron will learn too late, are harder to kill than kings. The Dark Lord stands atop Barad-dûr, his gaze sweeping the horizon. The east is his. The south kneels, but the west is a knot he cannot unravel. Somewhere beyond his sight, 3 rings gleam, not with the fire of conquest, but with the quiet radiance of things that endure. And for the first time since Morgoth fell, a shadow feels the sting of doubt, not enough to falter, not yet, but enough to taste the bitter truth. Even a hand that grips the world can never quite close its fingers around the light. The winds of change howl across Middle-earth, carrying with them the scent of steel and the low thunder of marching feet. For the first time in an age, the elves do not stand alone. In the halls of Linden, where the sea whispers against the shore, Gil-galad extends his hand to immortal King Elendil of Númenor, his once proud island kingdom, now lost beneath the waves. Their fingers clasp over a map stained with war, and the pact is sealed not with ceremony, but with the grim understanding of those who have nothing left to lose. The last alliance is born not from ambition, but from the quiet, desperate knowledge that if Sauron is not stopped here, beneath the shadow of his own tower, there will be no world left to rule. Elrond stands at Gil-galad's side, his fingers brushing the hidden weight of Vilya beneath his robes. The ring thrums, not with fear, but with a resolve as sharp as a honed blade. Around them, the campfires of the allied host stretch into the distance. Elf lords in silver mail, their faces ageless beneath the stars. Men of Arnor and Gondor, their banners frayed but flying high. Even a handful of dwarves, their axes gleaming dully in the firelight, their loyalty to stone and kin outweighing their mistrust of elves. It is an army, the likes of which Middle-earth has not seen since the fall of Morgoth. And yet, as Elrond's gaze drifts eastward, where the horizon pulses with an unhealthy glow, he wonders, will it be enough? The march to Mordor is a slow unraveling. The land itself seems to revolt against them, rivers choked with ash, skies veiled by smoke, and at night, whispers slither through the ranks, tales of shadows that move just beyond the firelight. The Nazgûl ride at the edges of their vision, neither attacking nor retreating, their presence a constant gnawing at the edges of courage, but the alliance holds. When men falter, the elves sing old songs of Valinor, their voices weaving a spell of memory, of light, of home. When elves weary, mortal hands offer water or a steadying grip on rough terrain. It is fragile, this trust, but it is real. And then, at last, the black gate rises before them, its towers like rotten teeth against the blood-red sky. The air tastes of sulfur, and something fouler the breath of a land long poisoned. Gil-galad lifts Eglos, his spear catching the dim light like a sliver of hope. Elendil draws Narsil, its blade etched with runes that glow faintly, as if remembering the hands that first forged it. There is no grand speech, no rallying cry. Only silence, thick and heavy, as 10,000 hearts beat in unison. Somewhere beyond those gates, the Dark Lord waits. He has counted on their divisions, their pride, their fear. But he has not counted on this, the weight of a shared grave at the feet of his throne. The horns sound, the charge begins, and for the first time since the world was young, the shadow trembles. The battlefield is a graveyard of broken steel and smoldering banners when Isildur stumbles upon his moment of destiny. Around him, the earth itself weeps, cracked open by the weight of Sauron's fury, littered with the bodies of elves and men who fought to the last breath. His father Elendil lies cold, Narsil's hilt still clutched in lifeless fingers. Gil-galad's spear lies shattered, its light extinguished, and there, towering above the carnage, stands the Dark Lord himself, a nightmare of blackened armor and seething flame, his very presence bending the air like heat over a desert. The one ring glints on his finger, pulsing with a rhythm that feels less like a heartbeat and more like a countdown to the world's end. Isildur's hand shakes as he lifts the shards of Narsil. The sword's edges are jagged, its glory reduced to broken teeth. Yet when Sauron turns, when his molten gaze falls upon this last stumbling heir of Numenor, something flickers in Isildur's chest. Not courage, not even hope, but the raw, animal will to survive. The Dark Lord's mace rises, dripping with the echoes of 1,000 deaths. And in that split second, as the shadow descends, Isildur does not swing for Sauron's head, nor his heart. He aims for the hand. The blade bites deep. Metal screams. Flesh parts like parchment. And then, silence. The one ring tumbles free, spinning through the air as if time itself is slow to watch its fall. It lands in the mud with a sound too small for such a moment, its gold dulled by ash. Sauron's roar shakes the heavens, his form unraveling like a storm, collapsing inward. The sky cracks open, the earth shudders, and then, impossibly, the Dark Lord is gone. Not slain, but unmade, his presence scattered like embers on the wind. Isildur sinks to his knees, his breath ragged. The ring glows faintly in the filth, whispering without words. He knows what he should do. Elrond's voice echoes in his memory. Take it to the fires of Mount Doom. Let it perish where it was born, but the ring does not want to perish, and as Isildur reaches for it, something shifts in his chest, the weight of his father's corpse. The emptiness of Numenor drowned, the unbearable lightness of a crown he never asked to wear. The ring seeps into these cracks, filling them with visions, of armies kneeling, of cities rising anew, of a king who would never again know fear. His fingers close around gold gone suddenly warm. The moment lingers Elrond at his side, the fires of Orodruin so near, the fate of Middle-earth balanced on the edge of a choice. But Isildur does not throw the ring into the flames. He hesitates, and then, with a slow, deliberate motion, he slips it onto his finger. The world does not end. Not then, but something in it breaks all the same. The ring's song coils around Isildur's thoughts, soft as a lover's breath. You are not a thief, it murmurs. You are a king, and kings do not destroy power, they wield it. Elrond's face is a portrait of silent horror. The elves do not cheer, the men do not rejoice. Even the wind seems to hold its breath, because they all sense it. The shadow has not vanished, it has only changed hands. Sauron may be gone, but the One Ring has found a new bearer. And the worst part, it feels right. Isildur turns away from the cracks of doom, his shoulders squared, his grip tight around his father's broken sword. The war is won, the future is his, but the ring, nestled snug against his skin, knows the truth. Some victories are just delays, and the next time darkness rises, it will not come as a conqueror. It will come as a gift. The earth itself seems to exhale as Sauron's form unravels, a great, shuddering release of pressure, like the last gasp of a dying storm. His armor cracks open like a shell, spilling not blood, but a darkness so thick it drinks in the sunlight. The One Ring lies abandoned in the mud, its gold dulled by ash, yet pulsing faintly, as if nursing a secret. The Dark Lord is gone, and yet not gone. His voice lingers in the wind that moans through the broken towers of Mordor, his will coiled like a serpent in the hollows of the land. Power like his cannot be killed, only scattered, and scattered things have a way of finding their way back. Around the battlefield, the surviving elves kneel not in triumph, but in mourning. Their hands trace the faces of fallen comrades, their songs weaving through the smoke like threads of silver. This was to be their last great stand, the final act of an age already slipping through their fingers. Gil-galad's spear lies shattered. Celebrimbor's legacy is reduced to 3 hidden rings and a mountain of corpses. The elves know, even if the men do not yet see it, some wounds never closed. The shadow may recede, but the light it touched will never burn as bright again. And the men, oh, the men, They clap each other on the back, their voices hoarse with victory. They raise Isildur onto their shoulders, his fingers curled tight around the broken hilt of Narsil, but their cheers ring hollow in the ears of those who remember. The heirs of Numenor have won the day, yet the price hangs heavy around their necks. Their cities lie in ruins, their kings are dust, and the weight of what they've inherited settles upon them like a cloak woven from lead. The world they've saved is not the world they knew. It is a place where every shadow stretches a little longer, where every whisper carries the ghost of a voice that should be silent. Isildur feels it most of all. The ring burns in his pocket, its presence a constant hum against his thigh. He tells himself he will destroy it, tomorrow or the next day, when the roads are clear and the fires have cooled. But the days slip by, and the ring's whispers grow louder, weaving through his dreams like vines. It shows him visions of a Gondor reborn, of a throne so mighty no shadow would dare touch it. All it asks in return is patience, a little trust, and so the ring remains, nestled against his skin, while the elves pack their ships and the dwarves retreat into their mountains. High in the towers of Rivendell, Elrond watches the first snow of winter dust the valley. Villier rests heavy on his finger, its song muted but unbroken. He knows what Isildur has done, knows too that no counsel, no argument will pry the ring from mortal hands now. Men have always been creatures of fire and hunger, quick to grasp what they cannot hold. Let them learn, let them burn. The thought is bitter as poison on his tongue, and far away, in the deep places of the world, where even time hesitates to tread, something stirs. Not a hand, not a voice, but a presence, patient as stone, waiting for the scales to tip. The ring has a will of its own, and it is very, very good at waiting. The war is over, but the story is never truly finished. Though Sauron's shadow has lifted from Middle-earth, it leaves behind an absence that feels less like peace and more like a held breath. The One Ring, lost in the churning waters of the Anduin, does not rust. It does not fade. It waits patient as the roots of mountains, certain as the turning of the tides, for hands that will lift it again. The river may have swallowed it whole, but rivers, like history, have a way of giving back what they take. In the years that follow, the elves grow quieter. Their ships glide westward in greater numbers, their voices thinning like mist under the sun. Those who remain walk the forests with ears pricked for whispers on the wind, fingers brushing the hidden shapes of Nenya, Narya, Vilya beneath their robes. The rings were meant to preserve, but now they serve a darker purpose, to remind. Every flicker of their light is a warning. The shadow may sleep, but sleep is not death. Men, as they always do, forget faster. Gondor's towers rise anew, their white stone scrubbed clean of ash. Songs of Isildur's fall at the Gladden fields grow softer with each retelling, the details blurring like ink in the rain. The ring, oh, lost, they say with a shrug, as if speaking of a dropped coin rather than the keystone of a nightmare. But in the quiet hours, when the torches gutter and the guards nod at their posts, mothers still hush their children with tales of the lidless eye. Fear has a longer memory than pride, and the dwarves, the dwarves, behind their sealed gates, the 7 rings work their slow poison. Gold piles higher in their vaults, yet their bellies grow hollow. The mines plunge deeper, but the jewels they unearth gleam with a sickly light. They do not see the chains they've forged, link by link, until the day their picks break through into darkness too old to name, and the drums begin to sound in the deep. Somewhere beyond the edges of the map, in the cracks between waking and dream, a presence stirs. Not Sauron, as he was armored in arrogance, wreathed in flame, but something leaner. Hungrier, a shadow learning patience. The rings hum softly in their hiding places, their song threading through the dreams of bearers old and new, for power is never truly destroyed. It only changes hands, and hands, as the Dark Lord knows too well, are so very easy to bend.